Welcome, everyone. So this session is being recorded, and we're just going to give it one more minute to allow a couple more people to join us, who can still see people joining. Welcome, everyone who's here already. And just give us another 30 seconds, and we're going to start the session. Okay, I think we're ready. So welcome, everyone. This session is being recorded. So if you are watching on demand, welcome at a later stage. And wherever you're joining us from today, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I see we have people from all sides from the globe. A very warm welcome to the Vynners Community Masterclass. I'm Melissa Kennedy, Customer Success at Vyntelligence, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be your host today. Today's topic is one that hits really close to home for all of us. Can a single interaction redefine customer experience? And trust me, you're about to hear some really great game-changing insights. We've got an incredible set of speakers joining us: Chris Morris from Gigaclear and Leigh Jenkins from Northumbrian Water Group. They're ready to share real-world stories, hard-won lessons, and smart ways they're transforming their operations with video AI. Quick housekeeping. Throughout our time together, we do want to hear from you. So if you please drop your questions in the Q&A section, whether they're for our guests or they're for the Vyn team, we're going to be answering them as we go along, and we'll tackle them for the ones that are for the guest speakers during the live session dedicated to the Q&A at the end. Ready? Let's dive into today's masterclass. First up, I'll share a quick overview of what the Vynners Community is, our purpose, and how it all started and why we're here. Next, we'll move straight into the heart of our session, Vinning Stories with Chris Morris, hosted by Account Director Tom Woodford, and Leigh Jenkins, hosted by VP of Sales Hattie Lister. Finally, we will open up the floor to a live Q&A and allow you to ask any questions that you have. It's going to be an action-packed session, so let's get started. Next slide, please. A quick bit of history first. The Vynners Community exists for one simple reason: to create a space where you can learn from each other. Every single person in our community, whether you're a customer, a prospect, a user, influencer, or a team member, is constantly discovering how innovation reimagines the way we work and allows us to drive exceptional results. This community is where we come together to share those breakthrough moments. Today's focus is very exciting. True customer centricity is proven in the moments that matter the most. Every interaction is your chance to transform a commitment into a living standards, not just a concept on a piece of paper. Today, we explore how agentic video intelligence bridges that gap, empowering your teams to stop just talking about being customer-centric and really start delivering on that promise on every single job. Now, I'm thrilled to introduce our first set of game changers. Chris Morris is Strategic Planning Manager at Gigaclear. He brings an enterprise-wide perspective to every challenge, architecting AI-driven solutions and managing complex supply chain to perfectly align people, process, and technology. He'll be in conversations with our account director, Tom Woodford. Over to you, Chris and Tom.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mel. And Chris, welcome to the event. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much indeed for having me, Tom. Thank you directly from myself. I'm really looking forward to this opportunity to discuss our journey, and just a general thank you from the Gigaclear team for all the great work we've done together so far.
No, great, thank you. Chris, I think we'll get straight into it. I've had the pleasure of knowing and working with you from day one of our partnership. But if we could, can we start with you? What makes you passionate about driving innovation and creating strategic change here? You know, where can we start with that?
I think it's something I'm incredibly passionate about, right? And it's something that I have a great privilege with at Gigaclear to be able to do on a daily basis. As a company, we're always looking at ways to innovate and to drive change. You know, from our very foundation as a company, the very concept of rural full fibre broadband, when we started 15 years ago, connecting very rural villages, the whole company is founded on this ethos of driving innovation and driving change. And that's very much passed across all of the employees, and it's encouraged at every level of our organization. So something that I'm also then incredibly passionate and driven by, to be able to influence change, where to see a problem, identify a challenge, go to market, do some research, look for the right solution, then to be able to deploy and integrate that to benefit the customer is something I'm very passionate about. So it's nice to have the opportunity to talk about today.
Right, and I think that's been very evident in kind of the work we've done together, the level of passion, but also the need to make change and constantly change to stay on top of it. You mentioned there the challenge. Can we get into a little bit what Gigaclear and you and the team perceived as the area of improvement and what you wanted to drive as the change?
Yeah, absolutely. So we identified, as we rightly said just a moment ago, a challenge, and essentially the challenge was as part of our customer installation journey, and we identified that there were scenarios whereby we were coming up against unforeseen engineering challenges or even customer-based challenges at the point of installation. So when our teams actually physically go out to complete the full fibre installation into the customer's property, in some scenarios there were situations we couldn't foresee ahead of time. So obviously that was causing us to unfortunately fail jobs in certain instances, to attend jobs without the right tooling or the equipment, so we couldn't obviously complete it first time for the customer, and ultimately let down our customer base from a customer journey perspective. So we went to field and we went to tender to try and address this opportunity and to see what we could utilise and how we could enhance that customer journey to obviously solve some of those challenges which we were experiencing. As a result, obviously, we came up with an initial business case, and we came up with an initial concept, which was, can we utilise video agentics to support the customer installation journey?
Fantastic. And then in that, obviously, we're here today because you've worked with us and deployed a solution that we know and think is working fantastically. Can you go into a little bit what that new customer journey looks like as you've designed this solution with us, decided what to deploy, what's changed, and what does that impact look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we now do is we essentially put the power into the hands of the customer. So it's something we're incredibly proud of at Gigaclear, that we're sort of the first UK retail fibre provider to use video agentics and to put the power in the hand of the customer. So to identify some of these challenges and some of these issues we're facing on the day, what we now do is at the point of sale, so regardless of how the customer places an order with us, whether that's through our telesales journey or through our online buying journey, we'll provide them with a text message, an SMS, and obviously on that is then a link to the Vyntelligence platform. And what we're asking the customer to do is essentially a guided flow of their installation route. And we break that down into 3 journeys. So depending on the installation type we're going to be performing for them, whether that's sort of overhead using aerial cables, underground ducting using existing open reach infrastructure, or physically digging from obviously our connection point at the edge of their property across their garden or their driveway, whatever it may be, into their house, we send them a tailored video addressing one of those 3 installation types, asking them to show us if it's overhead, for example, if there's any blockages or if there's anything in the way, any low-hanging trees that might be a problem, any sort of LV poles that might be nearby. If it's the garden, we're sort of saying, can you show us the route from your customer connection at the edge of your property into your house? Can you then also show us the internals of your property so we can make the best informed decision? And what's really powerful about that is it's enabled us to diagnose and triage proactively issues ahead of time. So rather than sending out our crews to complete the pre-works, so we break our installation journey down into 2 parts. We have what we call our CED, the Customer Enablement Day, where we test the network, do the pre-works and get the fibre to the edge of the customer's property. And then our Activation Day, our CAD, which is actually where we go in and do the internals, connect the CP up and confirm their speed. We've actually found that using this tool, we're then able to proactively determine issues that might prevent a successful visit first time, or might even need specialist crews to attend or something similar. So a couple of the examples I gave there, such as an LV pole, if we recognise that through the video agentics which the customer has taken for us, we can then proactively triage and determine that when the video comes back in using some of the AI technology that you've enhanced and driven for us, and then also using checks, we can then ensure the correct crew is sent out first time. There's obviously, as a rural full fibre broadband provider, we have a very large sort of and varied customer base, and that in itself is quite a challenge. We recognise that in a single day, our engineers might be working on anything from a main high street of a small market town, to a rural business park, to a terraced building, to a block of flats, to a farm. So actually the variety of the network and the capability of what we can be installing on a daily basis, given that sort of large variety, is really then supportive to have those videos provided by the customer to show us that early glance to proactively triage and then obviously ensure that we get the visit right first time. Or if needs be, we then have a proactive conversation with the customer and say, we recognise that you've maybe got a block paving driveway or a gated community. In a lot of rural areas, there are gated communities obviously to try and gain access to complete our works. Can we please arrange that ahead of time? And it's something I think which we were concerned of at the business cases. Would the customer actually be willing to do this? You know, it's very innovative and it's very progressive to actually take the power and not necessarily give it to an engineer or give it to someone internally, to pass that power to the hand of the customer. And what we found actually across the entire project is a return rate of, so as I mentioned before, we send it to every single customer at point of sale, a return rate of more than 53%. So more than half of our overall customer base who receive these links are willing to take the time out of their day to get onto their smartphone and to film us a short, somewhere between 30 and 90-second video to support their installation journey. And I think in that sense as well, customer engagement and their willingness is a real success of this project. And it was something obviously at the original business case and proof of concept we were a little bit worried about. But the quality of the videos they return is fantastic, the engagement is fantastic, and it shows a real willingness from the customer to engage with us, discuss the route with us, show us the route, show us where they want the router to go, and obviously empowers us to make their journey even swifter. And ultimately that's what we're looking to try and do.
I think, Chris, you had some really good key points there. One is taking the data you have already and tailoring the journey as best as possible to the customer. As you said, you've got 3 different parts there already, having underground customers, overhead, etc. Tailoring it already a little bit to then get the best, most rich data out of the customers, and then ultimately reducing those aborts, which was the goal. You've talked there heavily about the benefit to the customer and the experience of the customer. How has it been for your teams to be reviewing the data that comes back? How's it changed their kind of day to day, and also the decision-making process in the Gigaclear?
So it's become a real, what I like to call BAU, right? Business as usual. So it's embedded very well now. But obviously this is sort of 12 months since the original trial and proof of concept. So we did run into a few teething issues initially when we started the project, and that's not to say it was negative. It's just something that as it's evolved, we've got more succinct and we've got smoother at running it from a process perspective. So we utilised multiple teams initially for the triaging. So the videos would come back into a sort of a shared inbox, and then that would be disseminated down across various teams to review, to triage, and to discuss. But in the initial month or two of actually doing that for the trial, before we scaled and really started doing it significantly across both our buying journeys about 12 months ago, we recognised that was leading to maybe slight differences between how certain team members were behaving, reacting, triaging, and it was leading to inconsistent journeys internally for our customers and for ourselves. So actually what we did then about 12 months ago or so ago was we reinitiated the rollout of that process, and I took it back into house into my team, and we've essentially then had a single point of contact as a single point of failure, send, review and triage those videos. And actually in doing so, it gave us much tighter operational grip, much tighter control. It enabled me the time to actually have a standardized way of working to then roll out a consistent process across all these different forums. So it's not necessarily a scenario as simple as, oh, there's something wrong on this video, there's a single action, and that is it. It actually takes multiple departments sometimes to come together, to work together, to drive forward for the customer to find the right outcome, to engage across multiple teams and multiple departments. And it's really powerful, I think, having the video as a talking point, having someone, a single point of contact to triage it, determine what's wrong, use their expertise to do the right thing for the customer and for the business to either save the abort or to speed up the customer journey, and then to pass that information along, whether that's the engineers on site, whether that's to other teams internally who need to rebook the customer, who need to speak to them. And that actually brings it all together really nicely. It gives that sort of whole business field to this sort of problem and conversation.
Yeah, brilliant. And obviously you're trying to standardize the data that comes back from the customer, which is key. But your lesson learned there is actually standardizing the review process and the consumption of the data that comes back. You need both bits to be standardized for you to make a proper operational change. And I know in this one we are kind of automating the decision-making process to flag customers a level of complexity automatically off of the data. And I know you and I and the team have worked well together on narrowing that down to make it a more refined process, better automation, better complexity analysis automatically, which is great. I think that's a really good overview of the solution deployed and the journey you've been on already. What do you see as next in the industry, or even next for Gigaclear, is kind of taking the agentic video technology and doing more with it?
Yeah, so it's anything we can do to support the customer. So Gigaclear likes to go further where possible. So what we are now driving at the moment is, obviously we've been looking at the installation journey. Initially, we started that with just our residential customers, so B2C. What we then started to do as well is we recognised and I identified another opportunity to utilise that in our business-to-business space. So obviously, they have slightly more complex install requirements, slightly more complex requirements from a sort of engagement perspective and how we operate the work, how we don't disrupt their, the daily running of their business. We've also utilised it for router relocates. So for customers who are already installed and have shown us an issue internally, they might say, I no longer want it in this room, I want it in this room instead. I would like to move it from X to Y. So we've gradually layered up the existing process, which started as quite a simple concept of, can we persuade customers to send us a video to support their install? And we've layered on top of that already. But I think what's really exciting and maybe innovative from a fresh perspective is some of the work we're going to look to do in the future. So we've got a couple of examples that we might utilize moving forward around sort of traffic management, possibly around health and safety. And I think there's a real industry-wide possibility there from a safety perspective. How can we get safer as an industry, as telecommunications? How can we utilize video agentics to look at live site setup, to look at compliance maybe as well, looking at sort of splicing compliance and quality of service. So when our engineers have gone to the job and done it correctly first time, with obviously the support from the customer and the video that we've already got, could they then take a video to show the customer how they've left their work as well? So the customer has a calling card to recognize this is how well the job has been done. And then it's that constant engagement. They send us a video, we send them one back. And ideally what we would then like as an organization as well is to have a video sent to ourselves to show how well the engineer's done their job. And that can then support everything from sort of compliance and any form of early life fails or complaints from customers to give us that total holistic view from a customer journey perspective. But I think there's a real interesting opportunity to utilize agentics and to utilize video technology, especially in the health and safety space. Absolutely,
and I know Gigaclear will continue to innovate and spearhead change at your level, but also across industry. And you're almost segueing nicely into what Leigh and Hattie will talk about already, to show that the industries, kind of cross industry, are starting to do things. Just one last question from me then, and Chris, and Anish has hopefully flashed up your top tips already. But what are those key lessons learned that you would want to share with somebody starting to look at a project like this in any industry, really? If you could cover those at a high level.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really clear and really apparent from the prompts on the screen have stolen a little bit of my thunder, but I'll try not to read them word for word. I think starting with a clear problem and with a clear business case is always going to be a driving force, right? Understanding where there's a gap and how you might obviously then utilize technology to enhance that gap or to fill that gap, to bridge that gap, to then drive excellence and to drive innovation, obviously to drive the customer experience. And in this scenario, that's exactly how we started. It's also particularly important, and probably my personal top tip is essentially slow and steady, is what I like to think. It definitely, I know it's an old adage, but it definitely wins the race. It's important to find that business case very carefully, analyze it and evidence it, move forward with a proof of concept, do a small rollout pilot, make sure the customers are engaged, make sure people are willing, make sure the processes make sense, make sure everyone's aware of what they're doing at the right times and how it's going to drive the positive behavior, how it's going to either commercially save you money, save our carbon footprint from a perspective of aborted visits, and we're not having engineers driving to jobs they don't need to. Identifying that initially during that small scale pilot or proof of concept, and then gradually ramping up. We then obviously did a single rollout to our telesales journey, then our online buying journey. Then we utilized technology or API to roll out to everybody. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we're now building on that with additional use cases I've already mentioned. So for me, it's definitely probably the most important to take it slow and steady. Learn your lessons as you're taking them. If you learn them when it's a small volume, you're going to have less issues in the long run. If you go too fast, you're not going to know where the issues are coming from, what the problems might be. Will a customer actually take the time to return to you and send a video back, prove it at a small scale, ramp it up, keep the engagement, keep things nice, clear and consistent. And obviously that also quite nicely loops into engaging IT and stakeholders early. The more people in your department or your business or your entire operation that are aware of this process as you go through it, better. Ensuring then that succinct, consistent rollout, enhancement and integration.
And Chris, I think it's clear you'll keep these lessons in hand and growing more as we move on to the next piece. But thank you again for your time and the overview of all the work that we've been doing together on this, and I'm kind of excited for what's next. But I'm sure we'll work closely on whatever that is. We're at time. That's perfect. I think I'll be handing back to Mel here for.
Thank you, Chris and Tom. I'm sure our listeners are really inspired by how adding a natural interface like video can really change the game for the customers, help them to connect faster. And I really love the great insights you shared on your lessons learned. Lessons learned is really how we, move forward. So before you scaled, you found the right pace for your organization, the importance in engaging all your stakeholders early, having that single point of contact for the customer journey, and before you actually engage the field operations team. So thank you for your generosity in sharing all of those lessons learned. Now, I'd like to invite our next guest, Leigh Jenkins, and he'll be in conversation with our VP of Sales, Hattie Lister. Leigh Jenkins is a customer services manager at Northumbrian Water Group. He's a champion of service innovation. He has a sharp focus for CMEX, DMEX, and BRMX. Leigh excels at turning customer insights into meaningful operational change and building teams that deliver real impact. Really happy to have you here. Over to you, Leigh and Hattie.
Hi, Hattie. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks very much for coming. I think we've managed to make it to the stage area so people can hear us, see and hear us, but let's just have a chat and chat this through. So as Tom asked Chris at the beginning, which I thought was nice, change and transformation is no small feat and no small side hobby for people to have during their day-to-day jobs. So what is it that makes you so passionate at championing change and bringing in something like Vyn?
I think for me, and when I look at our journey specifically, I mean, we're Northumbrian Water, we're part of the water industry, but we pride ourselves in trying to be industry leading on everything. And big part of that is about the way in which we serve our customers. We want to be top of the table when it comes to measures of customer experience like CMEX, which looks after our domestic customers, DMEX that looks after our developer customers, and also our non-household customers in the BRMX world. That's huge for us. It's in the fabric of everything that we do. So we're constantly looking at the horizon, trying to find those opportunities to enhance that customer experience. And I guess that's kind of where we found our partnership with you.
Yeah, it was. Now, I was actually lucky enough to be at the Water Industry Awards and sat right next to the Northumbrian table when it was announced that you guys were the water company of the year. Congratulations. And I'm sure that you guys being at the top of the charts for CMEX 2 years in a row, which no one else has ever done before, has got a big part of that. So congratulations to you and the team. And I know there's some other water companies here that I'm sure are interested to hear what you've got to share today. So let's start from the beginning. Before you decided to bring Vyn into the process, what did the customer and engineer journey and communication look like?
Okay, so before we brought Vyn into our kind of report and issue area of our business, so whenever a customer is experiencing a problem on their water network, they would traditionally get in contact with us, mainly by telephone, that we have some web forms, and they get in touch with us to explain what that problem would be. And then the majority of the time, we would dispatch a technical expert to that address to diagnose the problem, hopefully solve it, but possibly raise follow-on work for us to do some more intricate work on the network to get it resolved for them. And that journey is probably, it can be as short as 1 to 2 days, or it can be as long as sort of 15 days, depending on the complexity of the problem and the work that we need to resolve.
Okay, so quite a time gap there.
Absolutely.
And were the customers and then the engineers, they weren't really directly connected, were they?
Not so much, no. So a customer will make initial contact directly with our contact center. And then we would sort of dispatch someone internally, and then a technician would go out to resolve that problem. We'd always try to make contact at the site, but real world challenges sometimes means that you just can't. Sometimes you can't reach a customer for any reason. They've had to nip out, school runs exist, people have work obligations. And when we think of our non-household customers, sometimes the person who's reported the problem isn't the person that you're meeting on site. Okay. So there's a challenge there around consistency of communication. And that was something that was shining through to us. Whilst we have excellent CMEX results, one of the areas of focus for us over the past couple of years has really been, how do we drive that consistent process of communicating the outcome 100% of the time to every single customer, which is why we kind of started working to implement calling cards into our processes.
Okay, fab. All right, thank you. So then can you talk us through what the Vyn solution is doing and what's different in that process?
Yeah, so there's a couple of strings for it for us, but we'll focus on calling cards to start with. So I like to describe this as kind of the water industry equivalent to kind of sending your vehicle in for a service, and then you get that really rich update about the state of your vehicle from your service technician. We're trying to implement that in the water world. So what we want to happen is that our technicians still go out, still make contact with customers on site, and we get that real valuable conversation face to face whenever that can happen. But if it can't happen, and even if that conversation does happen, we want to provide our customers with a summary video to explain the efforts that we've put in today to resolve the issue that they've reported to us, what we've done to resolve it, or what actions we're going to take next to try and make sure we get that problem over the line for them. And really, as I mentioned, that's to try and overcome those challenges that we just see in the real world of trying to reach that person every time and plug that gap in the small bits of constructive feedback about making sure that everyone's fully involved in the and up to date on the outcome of what they need to get. But there's other benefits and implementations to that as well. So if you think if we're dealing with vulnerable customers, for example, this is a great tool for a vulnerable customer to share an outcome video with a friend, colleague, family member to help them to understand the outcome, and we can support them going forward. And they can get that advice from friends and family members, as you might do if they can't be on site. So it's a fantastic tool just to make sure the communication is perfect.
Okay, so now every time your engineer goes out, they record a video so that you get consistency of communication. What about the actual connection between the customer and the engineer? Do you think that helps develop trust at all? Talk to me about that.
Absolutely. So this is entirely an add-on to our current experience. So when we look at calling cards as this particular project, we're not making an efficiency here. This is about adding on, enhancing that customer experience and driving that consistency. So we still want our people, they're our best asset, to go out there and use their personalities to talk to our customers and explain the issue and what we've diagnosed as to be the problem and what next steps we're going to take. There's so much value in that face-to-face contact. So even when we do send a video, and we do to every single customer who asks us for help, and as long as we have a mobile telephone number for them, we will always send them a video update at the end of that via a text message. It's really simple. It just says, we have an update from your technician, click this link to see it, and it will just be presented straight away with that video and some other key information about their journey. But it's an add-on, it's not a replacement. We absolutely do not want to take away from that. This is about just enhancing the outcome for the customer and giving them something to refer back to as well.
Yeah, and I imagine that being so important for a vulnerable customer, right? Because not everyone at home is necessarily going to understand the complexities of some of the work you do. And having watched some of the videos, I think it's often underestimated and not appreciated how complicated it is to find a leak.
Absolutely.
It's underground, guys. So the logic of having it explained, all of the effort and investigation that's gone into it, hopefully the operatives don't mind doing the videos as well. Talk to me about, how did it go when you turned around to your engineers and said, I'd like to turn you into film stars, please?
So I'll be very honest, there was obviously a little bit of resistance to it to start with, and understandably. So I think one of the things that we learned going through the process is that our technicians do a fantastic job and have to do a lot of things when they're on site. You think it's not just about updating customers and solving the issue. We've got loads of regulatory requirements that we have to fulfill and record and demonstrate while we're on site as well. All of that is time. So whenever we are adding anything to the process for our technicians, they're obviously a little bit cautious about what it's going to have. But I think the way that we delivered it is that we rolled it out as a trial to start with. We used some key players in the teams to try and roll it out and understand what that best practice should look like and overcome any of the learnings that you just naturally get whenever you launch a new project like this. You're going to learn things as you go. You think you know it all up front. You don't. You're going to learn that as you go along. And I think bringing those people on board and then being able to demonstrate the impacts that it's had at that trial has been huge for bringing on other teams and awarding it across our entire business.
How long did you trial for before you went full launch?
We did September to around January time as trial, and then we decided to bring it into a bit like Chris, we call it BAU, so bring it into our business as usual processes. We started in the south because we're a water company that operates in multiple areas, so across our Essex and Suffolk customers benefited from this to start with, and we've recently rolled it out into our northern areas as well, and it's going great guns.
So how many engineers did you have in your trial roughly versus the full launch?
5 to begin with, and we are now roughly 50 technicians per area. So whilst it's national, you'll be at about 120 to 150 technicians delivering these outcomes to probably, on average, 7 to 8 customers per day each.
Okay, all right. So big volume. Wow, you guys are always working so hard. Brill. So then you also mentioned demonstrating the outcome and the impact to the engineers. Now you've been running this for a good while. Can't believe it was nearly a year since we first started this conversation. Leigh, it's flown. What are the impacts and the outcomes that you're seeing? How successful do you think this is?
Well, we know it's really successful from a customer perspective because we did a really specific survey for the customers who have had this experience, and we asked them key questions specifically about that experience. So we asked them how helpful they found their video and how easy it was to access, and we asked them for some tips around what they think that we could improve upon it. Both the responses to those first two questions were customers in the mid to high 80% mark as a response rate, saying that they found it extremely easy to access and really, really useful. So we know the majority of our customers love it. So that's a really, really tangible benefit that we hope is going to translate into those CMEX results and just drive us even further forward. But I think there's lots of benefits that we probably didn't expect up front. Calling cards are a fantastic evidence base for us whenever something goes a little bit off the happy path for customers, if you like. It gives us something to refer back to sort of clarify what we've said on site. We can clarify the condition of a site at that stage in the journey. So if we do any follow-on work, we can refer back to it to see how the site was before we went along. We've got visibility across all of our internal teams. So if a customer was to call up at that address in a future year and say, got a bit of a problem at my address, I can't locate my asset outside the property, for example. Well, guess what? We've been there before. We've done a calling card. We've done a similar journey. So we can provide you with a rapid response. We can review that video and tell you exactly where that asset is. These are the surprise things that have been really, really beneficial for us. So awesome in loads of different ways, to be honest with you. It's been there's been very, very few challenges in terms of bringing it live, and the benefits are huge. It's fantastic.
Okay. Brilliant. So to play some of that back, we are getting the improved customer consistency of messaging. We are getting great feedback. Was that 80% of positive feedback from it, which is over the general public, which is a massive range of different customer types. I think is pretty great. I hadn't realized you were then able to use that for future inquiries. That's so cool, especially if you've got like frequently visited areas. You now know who went, when they went, what they saw, and then that end-to-end journey of evidence to go from problem to resolution, which is all then time and date and location stamped. Anything on repeat calls going into the call center? Have we seen anything on that?
So it's definitely an area that we want to measure more closely, and I think it's something that we're really bringing on live to measure at the moment. But we are anticipating that we're going to get a lot less. So we know we do get repeat contact asking for an update. Say, has my technician arrived? I missed a call. What happened? So we know we have that category of contact. We're in the process now of quantifying that. So that may well drive an efficiency within our inbound calls, which fingers crossed, it's really impactful for us. So it's absolutely something they're bringing online to measure now. But I think as well, a key driver for us will be when customers aren't on that happy path, when they do unfortunately feel the need to raise an issue with us after we've provided service about the service that we've provided. It's about seeing whether we can impact those numbers and making sure that a customer never falls off that path, and we can just try and keep them on there more consistently. So that's going to be huge and something that we're watching really closely going forward.
Okay, fab. Well, maybe we'll have to get you back on in a year's time to do an updated on those results. So what's next? We've just spoken about the massive volume that you're going to have of all of those engineers across the 50 in both regions. That's an awful lot of data to get. Now, as one of our really long-term customers, we've just released the new feature and capability too, haven't you? Can you take us through that?
You have, yeah. So Madda and the team have been fantastic for us. So we're working on the second string of the customer impact project, if you like, that we're running within. And this is going to be offering customers the opportunity to report issues on the water network using video technology through the Vyn platform. Why? So much like Chris was saying, we sometimes get those unnecessary visits or visits that we don't have all the information up front. So it means that we can go along to a customer with best efforts and we're just unable to solve it for them. This is going to give us richer data at the front end where maybe we can diagnose a problem virtually. Maybe we can make sure we're not going to avoid an unnecessary visit. There'll be key information within those videos that help us to find difficult to find locations. And ultimately what we're trying to do for customers is speed up that resolution time. So at the top of the call I spoke about, it can be anywhere between 1 to 2 days, 1 to 15 days of finding that resolution for an issue and a customer, depending on the complexity. If we can see that on day one, we might avoid a whole step and we can just go ahead to fixing the problem for them. So that's what we're kind of launching now. And Madda and the team have really worked hard so you guys have a fantastic innovation of AI agents, and you're launching the AI agent toolkit as well, which I'm quite honoured to say, I think we're the first for your customers to be given the keys to it, which is awesome. And the team have worked really, really hard to build that into that system for us. So in a nutshell, if you like, what that will do for us is it will take the legwork off of the technical representative reviewing that information as it comes in. The AI toolkit the AI system is going to learn over a period of time and get smarter and smarter about common issues that customers are reporting, and take a little bit of that time away from somebody having to classify and identify contact types and issue types, and do a little bit of that work for us. Now, it's absolutely going to have some human help along the way, and it's there to support our teams in being a little bit more efficient in what they're doing. But we see it as having huge possibility for us really driving the speed of resolution for customers. It's going to be hopefully massive, and we're on the cusp of launching that very, very shortly, at the very latest in September, but we're hoping to do something a little bit sooner if we can.
Well, that's it with all good change management, right? We've got to see how it's going to work. We've got to see where it's going to save people time. And I think like the really important point is it's going to have human help. Our AI is all focused around keeping the human in the loop. And, you know, during weather events as well, it's going to be so helpful as your volume goes up, just to do that first layer of triage so that we can save some of that time. So, you know, as much as you're happy that you're the first to have it, we really appreciate you taking the time and feeding that back, because we only want to create the capabilities that are actually going to deliver value for you, because that is quite a big project to go through in just 15 minutes. And I know that I've taken 20, but Leigh, thank you so much for your leadership and transformation of taking the capabilities, bringing everyone on board, and make sure that everyone's happy and using it. I'm really, really excited to see you next week at the festival. And thank you very much, Leigh. Can you take us through your top tips? Sorry.
Absolutely, there's no problem at all. So I was quite warm to see similar themes to what our previous presenters were saying. So I think we always have to start with the problem, not the technology. So we've identified the issues that we're looking to resolve around making sure that we can overcome those operational challenges, drive that communication, and then use technology to solve that. A big thing that we've probably, all of these are quite hard learned issues that we've gone through the pain. So I'm hoping that these can offer an opportunity for people to skip that pain and take these things on board, but engage those frontline teams really, really early, bring them on board of the journey, sell the benefits, make sure that they're really aware of what we're doing. Keep it simple. Hattie will know I'm kind of a deliver it basic, try it, and then add on kind of guy. That for me is the way that we can get something going, rather than just live in that limbo world where you're like, oh, can we add this, can we add that, and adding that development time on. Just go basic, learn and add on. Show the quick wins. So we're leaning into that a lot with the AI agent that I just spoke about. Like we've designed that around what measures success for us. Let's use that to formulate that information for us. So show those quick wins and demonstrate them to customers and the business. Keep the ongoing support. You can't just launch and walk away. You've really got to stay on it and listen, learn, and talk people through that development that you're going to make it even better. And use your champions. We've got some Spielbergs in the team who are doing a fantastic job on calling cards, and honestly the standard has been astonishing. I think it was something that when we brought live, it's a new thing to ask people to do. We're a little bit worried about what we might get. I've been blown away with the quality, and it really shows the value of the customer service and the technicians that we have in our team, and the value and knowledge that they have. They really work hard every day to deliver those outcomes for customers. So we want to use those people to sell the benefits and drive that best practice for other business.
Yeah, celebrate their efforts and their abilities. Thank you for very quickly running us through your top tips. And it was, you and Chris had a lot of alignment there on some of it. So hopefully people take away from that on the call. So Leigh, I'll say it again, thank you so much. And looking forward to catching up with you next week.
Thanks, guys.
So thank you so much, Leigh and Hattie. And really, it's refreshing to hear how Northumbrian Water Group is just taking a lead and delivering this total experience for its customers. I think we're very privileged to be working with the best, the best of the best, both here and, with other companies, working with people who are driving innovation. Before I talk a little about the insights, can both of you stay back a little bit? We would love to do a little bit of a Q&A. Are you all right for another few minutes, Leigh and Hattie? And
no problem.
we're going to bring back on as well Chris and Tom. So great insights there on the calling cards, Leigh, being this MOT video of the water industry and how we can help customers, always being updated with the latest information. And I thought it was very interesting when you were talking about the vulnerable customers and how they can use these videos to easily share the information with family and friends, and really all about enhancing the customer experience and putting them at the center of every interaction. And great results, right? 80% satisfaction rates and above for helpfulness and ease. That's really, really high. Plus the additional benefits of, when you can raise issues and seeing the evidence for issue resolution and clarification. And we've seen it in across all the industries. Sometimes customers complain because they thought something, they didn't know things were as they were. When you show them the video evidence to say, hey, actually your drive did have some cracks before we started works, they're quite happy to say, oh, sorry, I didn't know, so it's very helpful to have that video evidence to be able to resolve things when you're in the right and customers don't know about it. So we'll open up the floor now for our live Q&A. I have a few questions here. Hattie and Tom, if you guys want to take turns with me and we can each ask a question, or if you want me to run all the questions, I'll let you decide. I'll take the first one. I have a question here on what advice do you have for someone who believes is going digital may affect the personal customer connection negatively? I think, Leigh, you touched on that. Maybe you can start, and Chris, feel free to then complement. But yeah, you mentioned a little bit on that. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as I kind of mentioned, when we looked at calling cards, we didn't want to take away from that face-to-face interaction. We want to preserve it. We want to nurture it. And if anything, we just want to make it lasting so a customer can get the same feeling later when they watch it back. I think that's definitely something that we're mindful of as we go into our next project around customer issue reporting, because whilst we want to speed up the journey, there's a chance that we'll kind of skip that visit stage, but we want to make sure that the person who's responding to that customer is that person with that skill set, so they can provide the technical outcome and that great customer service that we deliver at the moment, but try and do it in a way that offers a speed benefit for a customer. Just to look, issues on water networks are never convenient, so it's just about how quickly can we get that problem resolved and get their water back on. And there's the myriad of things that a customer can need help with. Let's just make sure that we get that sorted as quickly as possible. But so we're mindful of it, but in our experience of launching calling cards, because we've done it in that specific way, it enhances the experience. There isn't any fear that we're going to be taking away from that experience for customers.
Great, thank you. Anything you want to add, Chris?
I'd echo a lot of Leigh's sentiments. I think you're never going to replace customer interaction directly, whether that's face-to-face. At Gigaclear, we do a lot of community engagement, so we go and speak to people as well directly. We do village hall events and speak to parish councils. We try to advise them face-to-face as much as possible, or via phone call into our contact center, via SMS. But I think it's quite interesting as well as a side product and a byproduct of the videos we receive back, actually the willingness of customers to communicate with us in itself. They actually talk to us on those videos about 80% of the time. Most of the videos we get back, the customers are having a little chat. And I find that fantastic. That to me, that says we can use digital, we can use AI, but actually it still is that personal feeling and that personal touch. And we actually quite frequently ring those customers back if there is an issue or something we need to discuss with them further and say, thank you very much indeed for talking us through the problem as you did it. Vyntelligence then uses an AI summary to highlight those key bullet points for us, summarizes everything for us. We then just give them a call back, and actually that's part of the conversation. That's part of that customer experience. They use the technology to talk to us, and then we answer and we spoke back.
Yeah, absolutely. As a customer myself, there's nothing more frustrating when you have a problem and you explain it to one person and then you have to go back again, explain it again and again and again, the same thing. So it really gives them the possibility to capture the evidence and the the problem once, and then many people can look at it and come back to the customer for clarification, not to start from, from the beginning and have to explain the whole thing again. So very helpful. There's a question here for Chris. I don't know, Tom, if you can see the questions or not. Do you want to take that one and share?
Yeah, I'll actually, with a bit of recency bias, there was one just now from Joe directed to you, Chris, so I'll ask that one. But Chris, it looks like it says, once you review the data that comes back from the customer, how do you feed back those outcomes to the customer and those next steps? And then is there any automation there as well?
Absolutely, that's a really good question actually from Joe. That's really powerful. I'll answer in a couple of steps. So yes, there is automation. So I think we mentioned it briefly in the sort of the forum and the overview discussion, but essentially, depending on what the customer shows us and sort of questions they fill in and then how the customer speaks to us, which I mentioned just a moment ago, Vyn will then prioritize it for us. Essentially, it's like a RAG rating. So whether or not it thinks we need to review it and then gather more information, whether we think it's reasonably safe or whether we think it should be good straight to go to the work. So that is then utilized by a member of my team, who then obviously reviews those we think most critical and most likely to have some form of interaction required, and then essentially we'll go back to customer and then advise them of the next steps. So it's all folded together. So it utilizes the automation, it utilizes the customer, the professional engineering touch, where we then obviously review it, and then it utilizes direct outbound contact. So the customers then guide them through that step and say, actually, we might have to delay this by a couple of days because we need to send an LV train crew, or actually, you're behind a gated community and we're going to need access. So actually, can we arrange a specific day to come and do those works with you? So I think we utilize all three aspects of that, but it's a really good question from Joe. Thank you for it.
Can I cut in and ask you a question, Chris? Sorry, I'm really intrigued. Do you have all of that integrated into any of your back-end systems that Gigaclear, or are you running standalone at the moment?
So currently it's standalone, but it's on our roadmap to then to go through an integration process with our sort of Salesforce and field service Lightning technology. For the time being, it's standalone. There's other IT projects internally at Gigaclear that have taken precedent, but it's on the roadmap hopefully for towards the end of the year.
Oh, there's always a big integration list, isn't there, Chris?
Unfortunately so.
Cool, thank you. Mel, is it all right if I take the next question for Leigh, who I know has come from a Northumbrian neighbour. So Leigh, question from Josh: How was the journey to ensure that the video updates to the customers you gave? Okay, so how did you make sure that the video updates you gave customers were relevant information? They're at the start of their calling card journey and really want to nail the right amount of information that's shared back.
I think I'll give you a really honest answer. So when we launched a trial, this was a big fear. It's a new thing that we're asking our people to do. And as great as our people are, we just wanted to make sure that the content that we're sending out into our customers' worlds was relevant, representing us in all of the right ways, and just making sure that the content was correct and going to offer that solution for customers. So when we launched a trial, we launched small specifically and mainly for two reasons. One, we wanted to build up that sort of champions pool, that experts who can help push that forward, but also because I did overly control it a little, and I reviewed every calling card that was produced to sort of look and see what the content was like. But that's not the advice that I would offer you, Josh. I think actually what I found from that was I had nothing to worry about. I think you've got these people out there giving the content to customers face to face every day. They know their stuff. They're delivering outcomes to customers anyway. Trust them to do the same thing on a video. So for our calling cards, we just ask people to point the camera at an asset, talk about it in the same way that you would to a customer. Just explain what you've done, why you've been there, and use your personality. We very specifically avoided using scripts. We don't want to hold our people down to using set words. We recruited them based on their technical expertise and their personalities and their service skills. We want that to shine through. So my advice is don't follow in my footsteps in the way that I did that, because you're probably wasting your time. Just keep an eye on the video content coming in. If you see anything that really needs a tweak, then offer that feedback, but also reinforce the great. So there's a really good functionality in the system called Golden Vyn, which we can click on when a technician delivers a fantastic Vyn calling card. We can select Golden Vyn. They get an instant notification to say that they have produced a golden piece of art for our customers, if you like, with really rich content, and that just reinforces that great behavior. And we have plans to kind of build in a reward system around Golden Vyns and select a winner every month to give people the opportunity to drive that forward as much as possible. So in short, trust your people are out there doing it anyway. So we're just asking them to do it in a different medium, and I think they'll probably deliver it for you.
Thank you. I'm sure Josh really appreciated that. And Chris, thanks for answering Joe's question. I think, is there any new questions?
There's a couple of comments. Just thanks for the Leigh. One from, I might not say this right. I don't know if it's Anjani Singh. So that's just praise there. And so thank you, Leigh. That's great.
Anjanae is an old colleague of mine who works for another water company now. So very nice to hear from you, Anjanae. Hope you're well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to get that recognition. And yeah, Vicky has a question here. Have you both been able to use these golden bins? So you mentioned yes. How, have you used it also for training new people and, maybe onboarding new people or less skilled technicians, to kind of pointing them into this is what, good looks like and helping them train that? Or is that still something that you have to put on your roadmap?
I think it's we've been quite lucky not to have much turnover since the launch early in the year, but I think it's absolutely on the roadmap. So when we do onboard new people now, and I think this is probably something across all of the video technology platforms that we're using, not just calling cards to sort of deliver that best in practice, but technical outcomes as well. We've got a video showing what someone did on a site to resolve a problem for a customer. We're really hoping that it can drive that best practice through the training process as well and really accelerate the learning. When you take on a new technical expert in the field, it takes months to get them ready to solve all of the things that can happen and go wrong. So if we can speed that up by using some of this content to do that, then absolutely that's something that we're aiming to deliver.
Leigh, we should definitely write some AI agents for that, because you're talking about AI agents for the customer issues, but we could do AI agents for your training material on the types of problems that you see, and that could automatically make your training lists for you. Sorry, just one for our list.
Absolutely. Chris, how about you?
Obviously, I think our use case is slightly different, but I do like the idea of being able to reward our customers for returning the Vyntelligence video back to us in a timely manner. Understandably, there's some resistance. Although take-up has been very, very good, we still get the odd video of a customer's feet as they're walking up or down their driveway. Always gives a bit of a chuckle to the people in the office or the people reviewing it. But yeah, if there's anything we could do to encourage greater take-up and feedback to our customers and provide that sort of level of, actually, you've identified something really critical here, an infrastructure problem or an installation problem, whatever it may be, and actually thanks to your video we've then been able to triage it, save a visit, and then ensure we get you connected right first time. I think that would be really powerful. But no, it's not something we currently have, so maybe one that Tom and I can discuss in the future and plan in the next phase of our development of the project. So it's really interesting to hear.
We can pick up how do we give that feedback to customers when they've done a really great VIN and that's helped you save a visit. It's almost like you've saved some carbon miles and made them feel great because they've actually contributed to a faster resolution and some good outcomes for everyone. Some final thoughts or any final questions? Hattie, Tom, you want to ask? Leigh, any final thoughts you want to share?
No, just thanks for having us, and look forward to the meeting about AI agents for solving some more customer issues, Hattie.
Absolutely. Chris, any final thoughts or anything else you want to ask us for? So
just looking into golden bins, I think, so as we just mentioned, next on the agenda. Always good to get
how we can incorporate that for you.
Absolutely.
So absolutely, thank you for everyone. What an incredible session this has been. So as we wrap up today's masterclass, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to each and every one of you. So from the beginning, our mission has been very clear, really to help every single busy professional, like those of you who have joined us today. Thank you for joining us, to simplify your work life and effectively applying innovation, embracing an agentic video first, AI first, and people-centric first. This is exactly what you've seen in this transformation in action. So thank you to each and every one of you who joined today. We truly recognize and celebrate the Vynners who have been with us on this journey of innovation and transformation and change, and helping us really make a mark, making every day at work simpler, faster, and safer. Thank you again to both of our guest speakers, Chris Morris and Leigh Jenkins, for sharing such valuable insights and their lessons as well. And see you all soon till our next session. So if you do have you have any stories you want to share, for those of you who are customers who are online, you can contact us and let us know, and be part of this community. This community is for you to learn from other people, but also to share your best practices. So look forward to the next session. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of the day.